It's 5 a.m. and ahead of another grueling day in the air, 34-year-old Matt Dearden is performing his final pre-flight checks.
Right, yeah, don't go in the exhaust.
Matt's been flying with Susi Air for over 2 years, but a few weeks ago moved base to a different region of Papua.
Where the bloody hell's he going?
He'll now be flying the airline's most challenging remote routes. It's a far cry from his former job as an IT worker in Bristol.
It's tribal and mountains and crazy weather and the most incredible flying I'd ever seen in my life. There's just no way I'd go back to what I used to do. That was just mundane drudgery, you know, whereas now I absolutely love going to work. It's the best thing in the world.
He's flying rice to the Moni tribe in Hitadipa. It's located deep in the mountains, a 50-minute journey over 90 miles away.
Alrighty, we're good to go. Very typical. We have some people here just walking across the end of the runway. Yeah, there we go, people. Aeroplanes. Look left and right before crossing.
In this part of Indonesia, people on the runway are far from the only occupational hazard. The mountains, moisture and heat create the perfect conditions for the trickiest weather pilots can experience. Thick, low-lying clouds are a daily hazard that make negotiating a safe landing a huge challenge.
The weather out here, it's always changing. The important thing is just to stay visual with the surrounding terrain. This is not an area you want to be going anywhere into clouds and, reduce visibility. You can just see there's a big mound right underneath that cloud. You can just about see it. Just when you think it's puffy clouds, boom, there's a hill.
The landing strip at Hitadipa is located in the bottom of a steep-sided valley. But as Matt makes a pass to check the runway is clear, the weather conditions are making it tricky for him to get a clear visual.
You can see the airfield here, right below us, but an airplane can't just drop down onto a runway. It has to come in on the approach, which you can see at the minute has quite a bit of cloud and fog on it. So we're just going to have to see whether or not we can sneak through it all in some way. It's going to be tricky.
With a heavy loaded plane, once Matt's committed to diving beneath the cloud cover, there will be no option to abort. Making his task even more difficult, the strip is hidden on a sharp left turn within the narrow valley. The runway itself won't be visible until the very last moment.
It's a hell of an approach, this one. You just have to wonder sometimes, why the hell do you build an airstrip in this position?
Don't sink.
Right now, this is as low as we could go before having to commit. If I went any lower, then we'd be forced to make that landing.
He needs to use all his previous knowledge of flying here to make his final decision on committing to land.
Pull up. Pull up.
Yeah, looking at this, yeah, we can get under this layer here. And we are far too low in this valley to get out of it with the load we got on board, so we are committed to make the landing.
Sink
there is
rate.
no choice.
Don't sink.
Having gone beyond the point of no return,
Still can't see the runway at this minute.
Matt can only hope there are no new obstructions on the strip.
There we go, there's the runway.
Matt touches down, but the wet grass is making it incredibly hard to slow the plane.
Absolutely zero brake connection. What a place to go at a runway.
The Moni people have survived on hunting and highland farming for thousands of years.
Much excitement. The rice has come in.
But recently, these government-subsidized flights have provided the villagers with modern medicine and food supplies. The deliveries are welcomed, but it can often be weeks or months between flights.
The job we're doing here, it's obviously a lifeline for these guys. So, it gives you a sense of purpose. You're not just flying an aeroplane around for the sake of it.
But Matt's takeoff is on hold. An argument has broken out in front of the plane.
There's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of shouting. As if the departure wasn't hard enough, we've now got dozens of people on the runway, so it's crazy.
Raids, revenge killings and ceremonial warfare had largely disappeared in Papua. But when the government introduced electoral politics and Indonesian money to the area, it caused these disputes between villages to flare up again.
Things happen out here. I mean, sometimes they can arrive at the airplane with an arrow through their chest and you sort of medevacing them back to the hospital. Yeah, it's what it is out here. It's Papua for you.
While the flying might be exhilarating, it does come at a cost. Working as a pilot in the mountains can be a lonely business.
I mean, the flying out here it's some of the best in the world. You just can't beat it. If I was to find any flying job after this, it's not going to compare. But yeah, I mean, it's an isolated kind of existence. Sometimes you're here by yourself, one airplane and one pilot. So, you come home to an empty house. And yeah, I mean, sometimes that plays on your mind. You're like, yeah, it would be quite nice to come home to a family and things, have a bit more of a normal kind of existence. But it's the kind of sacrifice you're making here. You can't have everything.
Although they are few and far between, there are some pilots attempting to juggle the job with a stable family life. Originally from London, Ashok Sharma once worked a steady 9-to-5 job in financial services.
Did professional qualifications in wealth management and basically had a career doing that for over a decade, 12 years or so before I finally thought, okay, well, I'm not really enjoying this as much as I ought to.
At the age of 35, he packed it in and started training to become a pilot.
I was having a midlife crisis. It was almost a snap decision that I made just to say, okay, look, I'm really fed up of doing this. I want to do something that I've really wanted to do for a long time.
4 years later, he's trying to rack up experience in Indonesia.
Okay. When I left flight school, I was under the impression that I'd be able to just put applications out and get a lovely job in a 737 in Europe. That was my hope.
For anyone from BA recruitment is watching, I'm really keen to go back and fly in the UK.
Ashok now has a wife and baby son, but he's forced to spend over half his time away from them. They're based 1,600 miles away in Hong Kong.
Hi, it's... Oh, looks like Ari's still awake. I miss him really badly. He's 8 months old now, so it makes me feel terrible whenever I go.
You're saying ba?
You're ba. I'm da.
Today, Ashok and co-pilot Mark are flying passengers from Medan to Mulabo en route to Banda Aceh, an area devastated by the 2004 tsunami.
Selected flight level change 110. Happy with that? Happy with that. And gauge autopilot, you're done. Okay.
The dangers of flying here are something that my wife is conscious of as well, and it's something that makes us both uncomfortable. The impact of something happening to me for my family would be terrifying.
Today's flight path takes them on a coastal route, and thick clouds are building that could turn into thunderstorms, something which can cause enormous damage to these small planes.
If you get the big ones, they can go up above 35,000 feet. When they get to that sort of size, they can do some serious damage to a little aeroplane like this.
The weather will throw a thunderstorm at you out of nowhere. If we do go into a really dangerous one, the changes of the wind can mess the aircraft up and spoil the lift.
There's just no clear way through these clouds at the moment, is there?
The wind will blow you up and down thousands of feet per minute, and to a point where sometimes you feel like you don't have control.
We need to make sure the passengers aren't thrown around too much. One of the guys that left from Medan a little while ago had a situation where he absolutely had to go through some pretty serious weather, and one of his passengers was thrown up to the ceiling so badly that she cut her head open and had to go to hospital. So if we can avoid turbulence, then we do. Oh, just reset the heading to 230.
Approaching Moulabon, the cloud is thickening fast. The pilots will have to navigate a safe route through the danger.
We aim for the blue all the time, so there'll be times where you'll see two big clouds standing next to each other, closing in, and you just got the blue straight forward and you're just pushing it as hard as you can to get through it before it closes up. I have to go through a thunderstorm to get there, but...
As the cloud closes in, torrential rain batters the plane.
That is very good. Let's check. I'll reset that. Maybe best if we take a...
Just go downwind and then come back for 1-4.
Lightning can hit the aircraft and cause structural damage, which can cause the aircraft to come down.
Whenever we're in the cruise or climbing up to the cruise, we're looking at where we can go. It might be a beach, it might be a field that looks nice and flat. It becomes often a matter of looking down and saying, well, there's a river there. We could probably put it down in the river if the worst came to the worst.
That's why you get some crashes with small aircraft going into massive thunderstorms. It's just because the plane can't physically endure that sort of beating that the thunderstorm's giving it.
As they near the landing strip at their first stop, Moulabon, Ashok will have to decide if the conditions are safe enough to bring the plane down.
All right, so we've got over 5k viz.
Despite the torrential rain, he's confident the visibility is good enough to attempt a landing.
Pro Victor November, turning final 1-4. Speed check, turn flaps 20 selected.
500.
And I'll go easy on the brakes as well if it gets wet.
With so much water on the runway, aquaplaning is a major concern. They could lose traction and skid off course. But some careful braking brings the plane to a safe stop. This region of Indonesia was left devastated by the Boxing Day tsunami in 2004. Susi Air was one of the few airlines willing to land in the area in the immediate aftermath of the disaster. The goodwill the company generated in those months has helped fuel its success ever since.
The sign over there said it was 2,600 tons worth of ship, and we're 5 kilometers away from the sea. So that's a big old ship that's been shifted by a very powerful wave. Some kids that are like 5 months and 1 month old.
The country is still rebuilding, but this area of the world will always be volatile. And Ashok has decided to base his wife and son in Hong Kong while he works here.
We're in Indonesia, it's part of the Ring of Fire. There's volcanoes going off, and there are frequently earthquakes just off the shore. A tsunami is something that's always an ever-present threat. So looking at this does make me feel that we as a family made the right decision setting up in Hong Kong.
But being away from his young family so frequently takes its toll. And Ashok is more focused than ever on the dream job back in the UK.
Oh, hello. It would be amazing to get a job flying back in the UK or even back in Europe, just so that I would be in a more familiar environment and we'd be closer to friends and family at home.
With the risks of flying in Papua ever increasing, the pilots have to know their emergency equipment inside out.
Okay, we've got a fire axe here. This is basically to, should you have an accident, the airframe potentially can get twisted, that sort of thing. So, you know, this is basically help you get out of the airplane. I have a satellite communicator, which this is pretty cool. It's Bluetooth to my iPhone, or I can just use it standalone. Send messages out, call for help, update Facebook even. So in the front of the cockpit here, we've got a fire extinguisher. It's actually filled with what's called halon gas. It's toxic, highly poisonous. ironic, really, considering potentially if we have to use it, we're going to be using it inside an enclosed space. So should we have to use it, you basically have to get the fire extinguisher and open up as many vents as you can, ventilate the cabin, because you really don't want to breathe that stuff in. It's not good for you at all. Unfortunately, pretty much every aircraft in the world has this, even the big jets and stuff. It's the only thing they found that can completely extinguish fires in the air. And as yet, they've not found something that's not toxic. So hopefully it'll never actually never have to use such a thing.
Flying the portaplane in the remote regions of Indonesia can be a lonely existence. With no stewardesses or even co-pilots, sometimes the only company the pilots have is the plane's emergency warning system.
Trim, trim, trim.
Oh, shut up. I love her terrain one is the best one. Caution, terrain, as you're basically about to crash into a mountain. She's just so calm. She's my mistress, you better obey her. Otherwise, yeah, she'll start getting all anxious.
Matt Dearden is flying solo to Papua, deep in the Papuan mountains.
We couldn't get in here the other day due to the cloud and the rain that was just completely closing out the valley.
Recent heavy rainstorms have waterlogged the landing strip, preventing any planes from getting in. Matt hopes the runway has dried out enough to allow him the traction he needs to slow the plane.
No braking at all on that side. That is muddy. It's the reason I don't wear nice shiny black shoes.
Matt's here dropping off and picking up Dani people stranded by the recent bad weather. For these remote mountain villages, Susi Air provides a welcome link to the outside world. The only alternative, an epic 3-day hike through the jungles and mountains of Papua.
There is a lot of people want to get out of here. You can see there's quite a lot of argument. We've only got 7 seats in the airplane, so 7 people get to go. The rest are going to have to stay behind. A lot of arms waving around. Main thing to watch out is that they don't damage the airplane, because obviously if they damage that, no one's going anywhere. Kenapa? Ya, saya harus cek sabuk dulu.
Kas turun, Pak. Semua kas turun, Pak. Kas turun.
No, tidak bisa. Satu harus keluar. Right now, we've actually we got 8 people in the aeroplane. We've only got 7 seats, so I'm going to have to try and get one of them out. It's already causing a lot of tension. There's a lot of shouting.
Matt has no one for backup when he has to deal with these disputes between locals, many of whom don't even speak Bahasa, the national language.
It's not unusual to get a guy hopping on the plane with full weaponry, machetes, bows and arrows, that sort of thing. There's no kind of body scanners and, what you get back home in the normal airport there. You've just got to trust that the guy sitting behind you with a machete he wants to get to his destination, so it's just part and part of living and working in Papua. Right, we got 7 seats and 7 people. Let's check the seatbelts on the other side, and then we can get out of here before it kicks off again.
It's not just at work where Matt finds himself alone. As a single man of 34, his thoughts are starting to turn to fatherhood.
Away we go.
But being a mountain pilot and maintaining a long-term relationship is easier said than done.
The only chance I get to meet other girls is on holiday. At the back of my mind, I do kind of think, maybe it would be quite nice to sort of settle down, have a wife, have a couple of kids.
I'll do this for as long as I'm enjoying it. Ultimately, I probably will settle down somewhere and, probably have a slightly more normal existence in the world. But it's one of the world's last true wildernesses, with some seriously unique people and unique ways of living. As pilots here, it's just, really lucky guys. I love it. Love my job. Love my life.
Next time. Poor visibility makes flying difficult.
You need to be able to see ahead of you for landing.
And some of the pilots come face to face with one of Indonesia's biggest dangers.
Some people have probably died in this village.